we've known that, Amazon and MGM, like Amazon MGM was going to be putting out these Bond movies in the future, but still owned by the Broccoli family. They were having a lot of discussion surrounding what the future holds for James Bond, who the next Bond will be, what they're doing for the next movie, all of these things. That has now changed. The family who has owned the rights to the character of James Bond for decades and decades and decades, they still own it, but they are not going to have any creative control over what happens, which is just wild. James Bond shocker. Amazon MGM gains creative control of 007 franchise as producers Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson step back. Now, Jay, are you a James Bond fan?
I dabble in it sometimes.
Yeah, I'm a big James Bond fan.
I prefer Ethan Hunt. That's just me, but that's okay.
Well, whatever. There's only like 7 movies of those. There's 26 Bond movies. But obviously, there's a lot of people that were very critical of the steps the franchise went in Daniel Craig's era. And a lot of that is very valid. I think that Casino Royale was an absolute banger. I think there's some other things that are missteps, including the entire way they've decided to portray Bond throughout basically the entire Daniel Craig era. However, there is something to be said for the restraint, I guess, and the hesitation that they have used when it comes to James Bond, as opposed to everything that's happening with Star Wars and Marvel and Star Trek and all this stuff. Basically just turn it into a product mill, a content farm. Be like, well, hey, we need a Q spinoff. We need a Moneypenny spinoff. We need this. We need that. We need this. They have not done that, and they've been very hesitant to do that. Now that Amazon is in full creative control of the franchise, it feels like all of that is out the window, if I'm just being honest with you. Amazon MGM Studios is set to take creative control of the James Bond franchise. The shock announcement, which is sure to shake and indeed stir the industry, it's a pretty good line, was made Thursday, alongside the news that longtime producers and custodians of 007, Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, will be stepping back. As per details of the historic agreement, Amazon MGM Studios, Wilson Broccoli formed a new joint venture to house the James Bond intellectual property rights. 3 parties will remain co-owners, but Amazon MGM will have creative control. And Jeff Bezos even fucking tweeted this out today. Who would you pick as the next Bond? He's going kind of full Elon Musk with it. He's asking the people, I guess. There's Jeff Bezos asking, who do you want to be the next Bond?
Go ahead. This is just, it's just like trinkets to collect for billionaires. I think that's just all what Mr. Amazon wants. He's like, I want to own Lord of the Rings, so let me buy that, and I'll just do whatever I want. I don't care about the lore. I don't care what they do, as long as I own what I can own. And now it's the same thing. It's like, hey, maybe we can get James Bond. So sure, why not? I don't care what they do. We're just going to just own it. And it's part of my collection. I put it on my shelf and we'll let the people run it and do whatever. That's just, some people collect comic books. Some people collect action figures. These people collect IPs, apparently. Bob Iger was in the same camp. He just liked collecting IPs under Disney's dime. Not knowing and not caring exactly what they did with them, just wanted to own it for the sake of ownership. But if the Lord of the Rings stuff is any indication on how Amazon will handle an IP, it's going to be an interesting series, the James Bond series via Amazon Prime. I can only imagine who who their first person they will pick, or people, to play James Bond.
Look, Amazon is super hit or miss with a lot of things, right? Wheel of Time, Rings of Power, absolute fucking trash garbage. I think Reacher's been good. I think Terminal List has been good. So a lot of it might depend on who's going to run what project. To me, it's not even so much just about who plays James Bond. It is about what they're about to turn this into. And that means that the James Bond cinematic universe will essentially be pushed out as content,
like Star Wars,
for Amazon streaming service. Yeah. And there's been a lot of James Bond movies, obviously, but there is still something that is cinematic and special about it, right?
Yes.
You're not getting a million spin-off television shows of James Bond. We have 26 movies, I think is the number at this time, over the course of 65 years, right? And there is something cinematic about James Bond that needs to remain cinematic. And what I feel like will not happen now is that it will not remain cinematic, that it will not remain in theaters, and it will be turned into a content fucking mill for Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think that is detrimental to it as a whole. I think it dilutes the entire product. And you can think whatever you want of the Daniel Craig stuff. A lot of people did not like the Daniel Craig era.
I think he had some great films in there. The last one was yikes, but
yeah, they literally fucking killed James Bond in the last one. It was a mess. It didn't make any sense from a timeline perspective because of female M and then going back to original M, origin story, but not really an origin story. It was messy. And most of it was the way they tried to they basically turned James Bond movies into James Bourne movies, or Jason Bourne movies, I should say. And a lot of things didn't work for a lot of people. With all that being said, it can still be turned around. You can still fix it and you still get back to your roots. I don't know if that happens with Amazon at the helm. And moreover, I just think the entire brand is going to be diluted. James Bond is about James Bond. We don't need a fucking Q origin story. We don't need a Moneypenny spinoff series. Those are things that probably do not belong associated.
We'll get a Jaws.
And that's what's going to happen.
Story.
Oh my God, Jaws and Odd Job origin stories, dude.
Maybe they'll team them up in some awesome adventure as to why they chose a life of crime. Forget the lore, forget the timeline. We got Odd Jobs, we got Jaws teaming up together, doing their thing, hitting the town, shooting some dice. That's what everybody wants to see. The real question is, do you think this will remove James Bond from the cinema? Think this will be it, and it'll just be exclusive on Amazon Prime, the next few Bond films? They'll just keep it on streaming alone and say screw the movie theaters, and it won't be like that, like you said, like an experience to go see the films. I've always watched them and I enjoyed them for what they were. I wasn't I'm not super into them like some people are, but you take that away and just like you said, you put it on streaming. That's it. Maybe they'll do a 008 and a 009, a 0010, 004. Maybe they'll do all 006, 00 negative. That'll be the non-binary one, the 00 negative. Just throwing ideas out there, Amazon, if you're watching.
Yeah, it just fucking sucks, man. Like, I don't know. It is what it is. It's now happened. And it's a little bit of a surprise. Like, and one of the things, again, there's a story that came out 2 months ago, something like that, that talked about the friction between Amazon and, Barbara Broccoli, basically saying that they didn't want Amazon to turn it into that type of content mill. And now they have complete control.
Every time you say broccoli, it makes me laugh. I couldn't imagine being in a room like, hello,
Broccoli?
yeah, I'm Mr. Broccoli. I was like, are you into farming? Do you have a garden? Sorry, those are horrible jokes. Let's move along.
Got any VeggieTales references? That would have been a little better.
I'm Mrs. Broccoli.
If
I own James
you
Bond.
like to talk to tomatoes or however that fucking goes.
I'm Mrs. Broccoli, and this is my cousin, Mr. Radish. Sorry, that's awful. Anyway, I don't really like broccoli. I like broccoli if it's like dripped in cheese and butter. Other than that, that's it. I'm laughing at my own jokes. I'm going to end it now.
Yeah, you don't actually like broccoli. You like broccoli if it's a vessel for you to eat other things you like.
Pretty much.